Hi everyone, I'm Paul Orfanos, National Community Engagement Manager at Delphi Bank, which is a division of the Bendigo Adelaide Group, and welcome to Delphi Connect, a segment where as part of our community engagement, we bring you leading experts from fields as far and wide as economics and the markets, property health, scientific research, the arts, community affairs, just to name a few. Hopefully you'll find our segments both informative and enjoyable. Let's move straight on to today's special guest, Elly Symons, currently located in Athens, who's co-vice president of the Australians for the Return of the Parthenon Marbles Committee, as well as co-founder of the Acropolis Research Group. Elly, welcome to Delphi Connect.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul.
Now, Elly, for those that may not know, what are the Parthenon Marbles?
Well, the Parthenon Marbles are really probably the key piece of Greek art and history, and I think, peerless really in the world. They were conceived and carved in ancient Athens in the 5th century BC, the flowering of ancient Greece and its civilization, and an extraordinary set of sculptures carved in Pentelic marble, which in fact tell the history of ancient Athens, the mythological history and also the everyday history, because many everyday practices and ritual practices and history are actually represented in the marbles. So, they, as Jeffrey Robertson has described them, as the ancient showreel of classical Greece. So they are really extraordinary and unique.
Ancient showreel, I really like that one. That's a good way of describing it.
Yes.
Now, an important question that needs to be asked is, what led to the marbles being removed from the Parthenon?
Well, look, it happened in 1801, which was an extraordinary period of history. It was after the French Revolution. It was in European times, a changing landscape. And the Enlightenment period had really fostered that love of ancient Greece in Europe and in England in particular. And I guess that's what inspired Lord Elgin to come to Athens. And look, it was a story that was a vexed situation. He decided he wanted to have these sculptures and that he was rescuing them. And through a series of events, he decided to take them back to England. And sadly, half of them are now in the British Museum, and they really shouldn't be there. They should be here in Athens.
Now, Elly, there's been an ongoing debate for many decades which promotes, on the one hand, the return to Athens of the Parthenon marbles, whilst on the other hand, the retention of the marbles by the British Museum. Now, one argument early on against the return of the marbles, as well as I understand it, was that there was no appropriate place to display them in Greece. Now, does this argument stand up today?
Well, that's a very good question, Paul. Well, of course it doesn't stand up today, because 10 years ago, 11 years ago, the Greek government built the wonderful, incredible Acropolis Museum in Athens, purpose-built to showcase the not only the Parthenon sculptures that defines all around the area of the Acropolis, but particularly to showcase the Parthenon sculptures. So the top floor of the museum is literally a replica, the size and the angle, and it's the closest position with line of sight, 800 metres from the Parthenon itself.
That close?
Yes, that close. Purpose-built to display the Parthenon sculptures. So that argument of which was valid to a point for many years, certainly has not been valid for a decade. That the Parthenon marbles really should be in the Parthenon Gallery at the top of the Acropolis Museum, where in fact the remaining half are displayed today and viewed by many, many, many people who come to Athens for that purpose.
Now, Elly, some put forward the argument that if the sculptures were returned, it may set a precedent for many of the museums around the world to be emptied. How does the Australian Parthenon Committee respond to this?
Well, we call that the floodgates argument, and that is an argument that's expounded by the British side. Look, we don't believe that to be the case, for the main reason that the Parthenon sculptures are unique. They are not single individual sculptures, pieces, vases, statues that were designed to be displayed singularly. They are a complete set. Not only, as I said at the beginning, they are a narration, a film reel of historical Athens, so which is another reason why they shouldn't be separated as they are currently. But they are also part of the building. They are not just things that were decorations that were added to the building. They are part of the building. So our main argument is that the Parthenon, replete with its sculptures, are the artwork in its entirety. So it's not something that can be chopped up piecemeal. So this idea of opening the floodgates, it doesn't really hold, because that really refers to other items in general, smaller pieces that are part of a period. And in fact, the British Museum and many other museums around the world have a wonderful collection of these kinds of items, of which there are many in the assemblage, to use an archaeological term. So these items are rightly displayed in museums around the world. And so the floodgates argument doesn't really hold with the Parthenon sculptures, because they are unique. That's basically the reason.
Thanks for that explanation. Now, there's a line of thought also that it's beneficial to have an encyclopedic or a universal style museum. Do you believe, Elly, that by displaying objects in parallel to treasures from other cultures at the British Museum somehow enhances an understanding and appreciation of these objects?
Yes, well, look, the British Museum does argue that, and of course, it is an absolutely valid argument, and there is definitely a place for the Universal Museum. I mean, we have 4 key such museums in the world: the Louvre, the Hermitage in Russia, and the Met Museum in New York, along with the British Museum. And I've been to all 4 of those museums, and they are without a doubt, extraordinary places, repositories of artistic endeavour and culture from all over the world. And there is definitely a place for these types of museums. And as I said in my previous answer, the Parthenon sculptures are unique. So they are part of a complete monument, and they should be unified in the place where they were conceived and created 2,500 years ago.
Now, where does UNESCO's Intergovernmental Committee on Cultural Heritage sit on this matter, and have they been able to assist in finding a solution?
Well, UNESCO plays a key role in matters of culture, certainly disputed culture and cultural property rights, and they have played a significant role. Sadly, the Parthenon sculptures has been the #1 agenda item at UNESCO, at these intergovernmental committees, since its inception in 1947. And so it's the longest running dispute that is unresolved, and it's time really that it was resolved. And it's a critical organisation in the resolution of this dispute. And so recently, in the most recent intergovernmental meeting, the team for Greece made an extraordinary presentation, and the chair of the committee and the committee itself made a wonderful decision and decided that it was high time that the UK engaged with Greece in meaningful dialogue to find a resolution on this matter. So we were really thrilled with that decision by UNESCO to step up and be assertive on this issue.
Academy Award nominated actress and former Minister of Culture for Greece, Melina Mercouri, is generally credited in starting the modern dialogue via cultural diplomacy for the return of the Parthenon Marbles. In your view, is cultural diplomacy the key element in finding a solution?
Well, Paul, cultural diplomacy is a key element in finding a solution, but the solution really is multifactorial, and so there are many strands to the solution. We obviously cultural diplomacy, creating awareness around the world in that space, in the media, in cultural organisations, in the narrative, in the general narrative of world communication. It's very important. But on its own, it's not going to resolve the problem. The solution really lies, as we believe, it's an intergovernmental issue, and Greece needs to stand up and fight and present a case in the forums, in the correct fora around the world, namely UNESCO, but also within the structures of the European Union and just in the UN to I don't want to use the word prosecute because it sounds too legal, but to plead their case and to assert their rights over their own cultural property. And we believe that that's the correct path to take, and we're thrilled that that's the way the case is going at the moment. And the Greek government has stood up recently. Prime Minister Mitsotakis has made an incredible visit to England and spoken directly with Prime Minister Johnson to actually have discussions that will hopefully pave the way to a resolution.
Finally, Elly, what are the key elements of your committee strategy for the resolution of this ongoing issue?
Well, the key element really is to create awareness, which we do constantly through mainstream media and through our social media networks. And we have wonderful networks all around the world of journalists, ambassadors, diplomats, people working in the museum space, the art space, the legal space. There are many cases or restitution of cultural property. That's a growing field of endeavour. And so our group is really constantly working at this level on these issues. And I guess the other thing is that we try to develop ideas and strategies to advise the Greek government because, on their own, they really need that whole support of Hellenism and Philhellenism around the world. So the Greek diaspora plays a very important role in the issue because in our countries of where we live, it's important to create awareness of this issue and to keep the issue alive so that as an international issue, people are aware of it and want to assist and support in a just resolution, which is to bring the marbles home to Greece.
Thank you, Elly, for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Paul.
That's all for today on Delphi Connect. On behalf of all of us at Delphi Bank, thanks for joining us. Bye for now.